5, 4, 3.
It's another episode of the Gauntlet Podcast. My name is Jason.
My name is Steve.
My name is Dan.
All right, as always, we're going to get started with talking about the games that we've been playing recently. I've got the list here in front of me, and the first thing is Dungeon World. That's just me, of the three of us. I had two different Dungeon World things going on since we recorded last time. The first one was we wrapped up our Red and Pleasant Land series. It was very big. It was very epic. It was a really, really terrific ending. And I'm glad we kind of stuck the landing on that one because we've been having some issues with it early on. But it really ramped up towards the end. The last few sessions were really quite good. And the finale was very spectacular. And it's a little bit related to what we're going to talk about in the main topic. So I'm not going to kind of dwell on it right now. The other thing was I did a Saturday session where we played for 8 hours in a dungeon that I called Kazumandor's Lair. It was very good. Probably one of the best dungeons I've done in a while. And the reason why, I've been thinking about it a lot. And a lot of the games I've been running lately have had kind of, like, to me, have felt like very me. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, they feel like something that I would put together, you know? Like, they've had a distinct Jason feel to myself. Yeah.
So, it makes sense that they would.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah. Well, but I guess I was becoming aware of it recently, I guess. And I was trying to figure out, like, well, what is it? Is there a thing there? And this dungeon really kind of like hit it home for me. I figured there are three things that all of my sessions like tend to have. And this dungeon had it in spades. First thing, a very like traditional or trope filled aesthetic or veneer, right? Like this dungeon had gelatinous cubes, rust monsters, cloakers, all the classic, monsters. It was just a straight up dungeon crawl, very, very, very traditional in its sensibilities, I guess, or its, kind of approach. But the second thing, though, that it had a couple of big set pieces. That's something that I do in games. A couple of big set pieces that were kind of like, things that the players were going to remember after it was over. And then, it also had, lots of like the lore of that we had been kind of building up over the campaign, kind of built into it, and lots of callbacks. And I think that's another hallmark of something I do. So I was really kind of pleased with how it went. And I enjoyed like the opportunity it gave me to kind of reflect on my own, I guess, like session prep and like adventure design and kind of what I kind of get out of it personally. And so it was kind of fun to do. It was a great session. I loved it. It was kind of the capstone to our mega dungeon that listeners might remember from 2 months ago or whenever I was talking about mega dungeons. Yeah. It was kind of the final piece of that mega dungeon. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Was there continuity between, A Red and Pleasant Land and, I gotta read this, Kazumandor's Lair?
Kazumandor's Lair. Yeah, there was. So, Red and Pleasant Land was like kind of like an interlude between the rest of the mega dungeon thing. Like it was a thing that happened like in the middle of that. Yeah. And then Kazumandor's Lair kind of came back to the mega dungeon to kind of tie up some loose ends that had happened in the story prior to A Red and Pleasant Land. So yeah, they were connected.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And so the next game on the list is Lady Blackbird. That was just you, Dan, right?
Yeah, that was just me. Yeah, I don't know. We've talked about it a lot. Do I really need to go into a big thing about it?
Maybe just what is Lady Blackbird about for maybe someone who's never heard of it?
Right, yeah. So Lady Blackbird is sort of a steampunk thing where it's one module that is like the start of the adventure. All of the characters and all of the rules are all like in one complete little package. Yeah. So it's really easy to start running. Like you just hand people their characters and they all have a backstory and they all have relationships already like filled out between them. And you just kind of go. So I think the beginning is Lady Blackbird has been captured by the Empire and is trying to escape. And there's a dashing captain who has feelings for her. And I don't know, an engineer, like a little goblin engineer who's always fun.
The goblin's the pilot.
Okay, goblin pilot, yes. A stealthy engineer guy as well, who's like the captain's friend or whatever, right?
So and then Lady Blackbird's bodyguard.
Right, yes. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably not a whole lot to say about it. We've talked about it a lot in the past, but the one thing I would say...
Have you?
I think so.
I don't remember this.
I don't remember that either. So
okay, well... I don't know, like...
we have talked about it a lot in the past, but maybe not on the podcast so much.
Yeah, it just feels like we should have at this point. I know we've referenced it a lot. Maybe we never really went in depth.
Yeah, I don't think we really went into it, yeah.
Well, so, I mean, I think that the setup is pretty much what you need to know. As you're playing, whenever you want to do something, you have a list of, like, traits, and you kind of go down and you build your die pool by saying, like, how you're using each of the traits. We've played it a few times, and the time that we played it most recently was, like, a 5-player game, which is, like, at its max. And so all of the characters were in play, and I find that it kind of slows down when you have 5 players. We played it before, and I played it with 3 players, and that's fantastic. And it was like really humming with 3 players. But with 5 players, you kind of fall into the trap of like trad games where you're sitting there and it's going to be a long time after you do something before you get to do something else, because every time someone tries to do something, they're like, well, let me go through all my traits. And am I using this? Okay, I need to justify how I'm using this to add a die to my pool. And then, oh, I need more dice, so let me justify some more things. And so, like, every die they want to add, they have to, like, justify it narratively. And so it's a lot of description about how they're performing these actions in order to, like, get more dice. So it kind of slows down when you've got a lot of people.
What do you think about this idea? We talked about it after our game yesterday, and it might be worth repeating here on the podcast. What do you think about this idea that it's the GM's responsibility to kind of put their hand up and say, no, like, you're overdoing it now?
Right, yeah. I think that it would run a lot better if you did that. But then when we talked about it, we came to the conclusion that, it would work better if you did that. And if you were just really serious about, well, no, that is not applicable. You can't get a dice for, like, a die.
Like, you're
for
really
that.
stretching it on that trait or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, you're kind of like stomping on the players' ideas and their creativity to some extent.
Yeah.
So, like, it kind of sets you up to be a jerk as the GM if you're just continuously telling players no.
Yeah, that was my feeling on it too. The reason why we were talking about it yesterday was because it came up with Dogs in the Vineyard as well. One of the listeners in the community mentioned that, in response to what we said, a few weeks ago, it's the job of everyone at the table to police that, right? And to say, like, you can't just add in every single thing. Like, it has to make sense in the fiction. You've got to narrate that. It's got to make sense in the fiction. And that's great and all true. But when there's so many options there, like, nobody wants to be the dick who's like, no, like, you can't do that. Like, nobody wants to do that. So, it's, to me, it's a bit of like, I love John Harper games and that's been well established, but to me, that quality in story games is something of a hallmark of, like, games that are a little long in the tooth, maybe, that have maybe, I think that maybe there's better ways of doing, that now than just having great big lists of traits. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Steve?
I've only encountered that I can remember. I'm sure there's ones I'm forgetting, but I've only encountered that in a Cortex Plus game I played, and that was just one session, and the Dogs in the Vineyard game. So I haven't played Lady Blackbird, but it... going back to what you were saying, like, as the GM, you sort of put the kibosh on things that seem like a bit of a stretch. Yeah, I think if I were the player in a game like that, it would be a much quicker paced game session once. And I probably, wouldn't want to return to that experience.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and also because it's going to start being a thing where it's like, well, you let him do this and this and this.
Exactly.
Right? How come I can't do, know? Yeah. I don't know. I think if that's what you have to do to speed the process up, like, that seems like not the right answer to me. It just seems like it's going to invite trouble. But
yeah, in a lot of cases, it would be hard to deny someone things for traits that are super general. Like, I'm sneaky. I can do anything
right,
sneakily.
Yeah.
So, like, who are you to say that I'm not being sneaky when I do this, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know why we started talking about Fate Accelerated all of a sudden, but yes.
Okay, cool. Well, the next thing on the list is a Parsley game, right?
Yay! Yes, that was
tell
just
us about
me.
it, Steve. Yeah,
Parsley games are they're all made by Jared Sorensen, and they're like $5 trifold laminate things. Totally worth that's crazy cheap for the fun you'll get out of it. And Parsley is a pun based on parser, like the old computer systems that would run Zork and the like text adventure games. Yeah. And I love these things. There's probably 6 or 7 of them published. And the one I ran was called Spooky Manor, which is probably the one I've had the most fun with. And basically, it requires one person to run it. It requires more or less a GM to act as the computer. And then everyone else playing, and there can be dozens, if not hundreds of people playing plays the main character. And when it's your turn as the main character, you basically input a command that that a computer game of the, say, early 80s or whatever would accept. So, like, I describe a room to you, and you say, and I tell you where the exits are. And you're like, look bookshelf, because I've described a bookshelf. And so, assuming there's text in the Parsley game about the bookshelf, assuming it's important, and it probably is if I mentioned it, then I'll mention that, you find these 3 important books. And I accidentally realized I'm telling an example from the Spooky Manor game. I wasn't intending to. There was a bookshelf. There are 3 special books. And if you look at 2 of them, one of them's about werewolves. You're like, okay, I'll take that one. That's got to be important. One of them's about something else important. Oh, one of them opens a secret door through a sarcophagus in the room. And then if you look at the 3rd one, which is Dante's Inferno, a trap door opens below you. You fall into the house's incinerator. You're dead. Game over. You do have 3 save points, but other than that, it can be pretty brutal. But the way it's set up is to sort of like when I was running this, my one of my friends who knows me really well was like, yeah, I can see why you like this game, because it gives you license to be an asshole as the computer. Because if they don't phrase things right, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, give me a look at that book. I'm sorry, I don't know how to. Give me a look at that book.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's the next person's turn, because your turn is over. You wasted it.
Okay, I've never done it with more than one person.
Oh,
that
really?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
So I just did it like a dude I used to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would screw around with them during our lunch breaks or something. And
Right.
so I've run through quite a few of them, but never with more than one person. But I feel like it probably would be a lot better. With
it is, yeah.
people. Yeah. Because we were always kind of like, well, that was fun, but yeah.
With multiple people, it's a lot more fun, especially if you put. I've played it a bunch of different ways regarding how the players communicate, where there's open communication where, if, like, Jason, if it's your turn, Dan, you can talk to whoever else is around, or there's like an official phrase you say that is your turn.
Okay.
And I've played it where whatever you say, that is your turn. And if it's not your turn, you say nothing. And that can result in things like, the first time I was a player in a game like this, I think there was like there was an axe and a stump that I noticed and other people didn't, even though it's an axe and a stump. Come on, of course we're going to need that. And so everybody else that keeps trying to leave the screen where that happens, go north. And then it's my turn. Okay, go south. And they're like, well, I don't know why that's happening. Go north. Okay, go south. Just go south. But it gives you, it's a lot of fun dealing with crappy technology in a way where you're actually you're actually dealing with a person, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But as the GM, your hands are tied. You have to essentially do what's in the book, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I've encountered a time or two where it doesn't account for something, I think.
Okay.
Or where like you might say something incorrectly and have to make up for
right.
it later.
Yeah.
But I was having a ton of fun where like they go into a room and I read the description of they try something, it succeeds. I read the description of what's happening and I maybe read ahead a little and I start giggling because I realize, they're going to need the pin from 15 rooms ago that they totally ignored because it's just an ink pin on a desk. Who cares? So Spooky Manor. Let me see. I've run Action Castle and Action Castle 2.
Action Castle is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Z Ward, the zombie one. That one was fun too. But anyway, they're $5. They're tons of fun. Look up Jared Sorensen Parsley. That's Parseley, because it's a pun. Anyway, tons of fun. $5.
Cool. Awesome. Well, the next game is Monster of the Week, and that's me. Since we recorded last, I have run 2 sessions of Monster of the Week. We are running them on Wednesdays. I have kind of a small group, but I like a small group in Monster of the Week. It's got like a Mulder and Scully vibe, right? To it a little bit. So the way I'm running these sessions of Monster of the Week, these particular sessions, is I am basing each of them off of an action or horror movie from the 1980s. So the first one was based off of Phantasm, which is a not good horror movie from 1985, I think, or 86 or something like that. And then the second one was based off of an even worse horror movie called The Stuff, which is a movie about an ice cream that is actually like this alien organism that kills you when you eat it, or takes over your body. And yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
that sounds like a solid 80s movie.
Yeah, it was good. I'm enjoying it a lot. Well, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about my Dungeon World games, like using these 1980s, like all these like 1980s tropes, these tropes of 1980s movies. It's a really, really recognizable thing that people get, right? Like they get it and they're able to immediately like start role playing in the correct way because they have a good understanding of like how that's supposed to be, like what those movies are like and stuff.
Does the game take place in the 80s or it's just got that vibe?
That's just what I do. Those are just the sessions I'm running.
I mean, that's what I mean.
They actually take place in the 80s. No, they actually don't.
Okay.
They have like cell phone technology and stuff. I've run in the past where I've said, hey, this is going to be in the 80s, but they have they have that vibe though, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, it's really great. It's a lot of fun. We had to miss a week because of the weather. Just like the weather's been fucking up a lot of things lately, but
true.
Yeah, it really has. So yeah, and it was great. We're doing the revised edition. There was an edition that was put out a couple years ago by Michael Sands, and he collaborated with Evil Hat to put out a brand new edition. It's not very different. I mean, it's pretty similar.
It's expanded.
Yeah, it's expanded. Yeah, the book is a lot bigger.
Heavily.
There's a lot more art. The book is nice. A few little, maybe like 4 or 5 like significant mechanical changes, but if you've still got the old version sitting around, that one plays fine too. I mean, the one nice thing that this new one did was it clarifies a couple things that were always a little like unclear in the original edition. The biggest one being one of the moves that you can do in the game is called Investigate a Mystery, and this is like your basic learn something about the monster move, and the questions you can ask, they seem to be like just straight up giving you the answer like immediately, right? Like one of the questions is, where did it go? What can hurt? What can hurt it? What is it? If you get and so what I didn't understand from the previous edition, which was made clear in this revised edition, and it helps a lot, is I always had this tension of like, well, how much do I tell them? Am I supposed to tell them straight up? Because you're always supposed to answer honestly. So do I tell them the monster is there, or this is what hurts the monster?
It's the ice cream,
right? Yeah, it's obviously the ice cream, right? Yeah, I mean. So what the
Kill it with heat lamps.
Exactly, yeah. So what the revised edition does is it actually says this sentence, which is really great, which is, the answer you give must be true, but not necessarily complete. So you can say like, basically it gives you some power as a GM to kind of unfurl your story and your mystery as needed, right? So you can give them just a little bit here to kind of give them a tangent to go, to follow up on or whatever. So, I guess like, I think I was probably naturally kind of coming to that conclusion, but I always felt a little like uncomfortable because, normally in Apocalypse World games, like the answers to those questions are supposed to be like true and complete, right? Like you're not supposed to dither or like be vague about it, right? You're supposed to say, unless you get a result that leads to a vague result, you're supposed to say like, in Dungeon World, what is about to happen? You were supposed to say what is about to happen, right? Like if there's a monster that's about to jump out, you're supposed to say there's a monster that's getting ready to jump out, right? So having that little bit of language helped a lot. They switched up the XP system, which I liked a lot. The old XP was standard Apocalypse World XP, which is you highlighted stats. I think that works great in Apocalypse World, and it works really well in Monster Hearts for the most part. We've discussed that at length, but it makes more sense anyway in those contexts because those are games where the players are kind of driving the action. There's kind of a more equal distribution of like who's driving the action between the players and the GM.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, you want to see the players like, they're having conflict. They're kind of pointing at each other, that kind of thing. In Monster of the Week, the players are just kind of reacting to the GM, in a more traditional kind of like framework as far as like the game goes. And so it makes a little less sense to have highlighted stats because it doesn't because you're all on the same team. It doesn't really make as much sense to like choose suboptimal stats for people, right? So it's like,
it seems like the players don't, like what you were kind of getting at was the players don't have the opportunity to play in a way that they'll hit these stats more.
That
really,
too, both, yeah,
right?
both are true.
It's not in their control whether they're rolling like
exactly
cool
right,
or whatever, right? It's whatever the GM
because you're kind of reacting to the GM.
Yeah.
It's both, right? You're reacting to the GM, so you may not even have a chance to control whether you can roll your weird. Like in Monster of the Week, like if you get your weird highlighted, weird is only used for spellcasting. Like there's nothing else. There's no other reason to use it. So unless there's just some like odd custom move that comes in,
Well, or you have they'd have like playbook moves that run off a weird, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But imagine if you're not that playbook, right?
Yeah,
and you're screwed. So, the way it would always go in the old edition is basically if you had cool highlighted, you were going to advance way faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
That was just it.
Right.
Because cool is what you roll in in
when
the
a
Defy
monster
Danger
shows
style
up,
movies.
you start
right.
rolling cool. So,
Yeah, cool is what gets rolled a lot. Like, so if you were lucky enough to get cool highlighted, you were going to rack up the XP, right?
Especially if your playbook has a ton of cool
Exactly.
cool moves,
yeah.
Right.
So the new edition does it like Dungeon World. You get XP on a failure. It works fine. And it's great. It also adds like a Dungeon World style end of session thing where you get XP awards as well. Yeah, but the old edition is fine too, for the most part. So check it out. Monster League's great. I didn't really set it up for anybody, but basically the idea is it's an episodic game. Every session you have the same characters, but every session they're fighting a different monster, a la Supernatural or the X-Files or Buffy.
Yeah.
So, yep. Cool.
Great.
All right. The next one is Goblin Quest and Kobold Quest. That was 2 different nights actually, but collectively
It's
we were
been a
all in
while.
them. Yeah. So, we put them together though, because they're basically the same game. Kobold Quest is just a hack of Goblin Quest. Dan, why don't you set it up?
Okay. I'll start with Goblin Quest, since that's the base experience, right? Goblin Quest is about, you have a team of goblins that you play. You have 5 goblins, and they're all related to each other, and you play them sequentially because they're going to die. And so they have like, essentially, they can take 1 hit without dying, but as soon as they take a second point of damage, they're dead. You scratch it off your sheet, and you start playing as the next guy on your sheet, who is similar to the previous ones because they have like characteristics that they share as a family, but they also all have individual differences. So you get a little bit of difference between the characters. You watch these characters get murdered as they try to accomplish mostly small and insignificant tasks, but they die left and right while trying to do that.
So what ways are Kobold Quest different?
Let's go into like the way it actually plays, right? Because that's the big difference. So in Goblin Quest, you initially kind of come up with what our quest is going to be. And so, you pick something stupid that you want your goblins to accomplish. Like, I think one of the ones we did was, hold a pig racing contest or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
In ours, it was, the one we just played. We wanted to have an owlbear air show.
There you go. Yeah. So you pick a stupid goal and then you decide, well, what's it going to take to accomplish this? And then you break it up into kind of 3 acts of like, well, first we need to find an owlbear, and then we need to find a lasso or something, right? And so you kind of like assemble your stuff and get it all together. And that's kind of the gameplay loop is you're just accomplishing these goals one after the other, and in order to hopefully accomplish your main objective at the end.
Before all your goblins die.
Before all of them die, yeah. If all of the goblins die, then you essentially fail the quest. But
that's all of the goblins between
happen.
everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It seems, mathematically, it seems nearly impossible to happen, but, I mean, I guess.
And that's fine, because it's not, I don't think it would be as much fun if you didn't eventually win, because, you're getting plenty of failure along the way as your goblins are eating it. The difference in Kobold Quest is that you always have a quest that's given to you by a dragon, because you're kobolds who serve a dragon, and the dragon comes up with some ridiculous demand. And as kobolds, the way you fulfill this demand is you build a big complicated machine a la Mousetrap, right? So everyone comes up with different machine parts that they think you will need in the beginning of the game. And so in our game, we had things like a wire cage. We were trying to capture princesses for the dragon, and so we had like a wire cage and a 9-volt battery
and a kitten.
A kitten.
Oh, but it was a dire kitten.
Well, it turned into a dire kitten, but we only needed a kitten, and an old incontinent dwarf was also an integral part of the plan. Right. And so the individual quests are all like sort of heist missions where you're going out to, say, like a player picks a spot on the map and is like, well, this is where we would find an old incontinent dwarf. And so then the kobolds all run to that location to try and grab this dwarf and bring him back so they can integrate him into the machine. And then at the end, you turn on the machine and see if it works and if any of your dudes survive. So,
well, and you build the machine as well.
You do, yeah. You're drawing the parts on index cards and connecting the inputs to outputs and all of that. And then, like, that's the flow that you go through at the final stage to see if it actually works.
And you don't really decide how it's supposed to work until then.
Exactly. Yeah.
You decide like what you think the integral parts are,
right?
But not necessarily. Yeah,
and all of the players make 2 parts, and then you only actually end up using half of them. So you couldn't even like game it initially because you don't know what parts you're going to end up getting from the pool. So Yeah, like you have to wait till the end to like the point where you're like, okay, well, now we have a cage and a kitten and a dwarf and a battery. So how do we wire these things together to get a princess, right? So yeah, so that's the
it was cool.
Yeah.
It was really fun. We should mention that the dire kitten was just a regular cat.
Right. Yes.
Right,
yeah. But one of the results in the quests, like when you're getting the things,
Did you get a better version?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so you're filling out check boxes, right? You're getting successes, and you're filling out this track.
Checkboxes. Who made this game?
Yeah. Weird.
Check
right?
boxes.
Yeah. So, but you're getting successes on the success track, and then at the end, instead of like Goblin Quest, you just keep going until you accomplish your mission. In this, every player gets one turn for each step of the way, and at the end of it, you check to see like, did we get enough successes to get what we were after? And if you did, then you get your item. If you didn't get enough, then you get like a shitty version of the item. And if you get more than you needed, then you get a better version of the item.
Right.
So that's how we wound up with a dire kitten. Was we were going for a kitten
And a bird cage filled with bees.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because
Instead of just a bird cage.
that's what's better than a bird cage.
Right.
Is a bird cage filled with
Obviously,
bees.
yeah.
I liked that aspect of Kobold Quest, where it can be lesser than or greater than what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
But Goblin Quest has a character sheet that is two-sided, and where as you're going along and crossing off dead goblins, it has little goblin silhouettes that you draw in and
draw the goblin
customize.
on,
Yeah.
And that was way more fun than it had any right to be. So whenever it was not my turn, I'm like, okay, pants have stripes, and I think this guy's got a comb over, and I'm just customizing goblins at all times.
We had a goblin who was blind, and so he wore 2 eye patches, like crisscrossed over his face. It was amazing.
It's good.
Yeah. I have to say, all the Kobold Quest, that hack was part of the Goblin Quest Kickstarter, the Kickstarter for this sort of official edition of Goblin Quest. The game's been around forever, right? Or for a while, kind of in a beta form. I love, we've played a couple of the hacks and Regency Ladies, which was not a hack, but kind of initially inspired by Goblin Quest. I love that he's taken like this core formula of, you have a little 5 or 6 pack of like dudes. They all are trying to do a thing. They die one by one. And he's like he just kind of remixes it over and over again with all these different hacks and like adds new little things, but still kind of keeps that basic core experience. I think it's really sharp. I'm really, really digging that book. The Goblin Quest book, folks should pick that up. It's a lot of fun. It's a good read, really funny.
Oh yeah.
This might not be true by the time the podcast comes out, but Grant Howitt put out for this past weekend, I think for Free RPG Day, he put out the more bare bones, without the hacks, in other words, version of Goblin Quest for free on his website.
Cool.
Oh, nice. Cool. Good.
So even if that's not still true, Grant Howitt's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I really want to try out the sort of Lovecraftian investigation hack, because it sounds like it's actually aiming for serious, unlike obviously all the others.
Yeah, I'm curious how that will play out.
Yeah.
I almost, because we were considering, like, when we were going to play Goblin Quest the other day, Russ and I had, like, considered maybe not even running Goblin Quest, but, like, running a hack, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I thought about the Cthulhu one, but I wasn't sure if I could pull it off,
Well,
I wasn't sure.
I think it's designed for long-term play.
Yeah,
as well.
there was that
Really?
too. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I don't know. Like, it's Friday night. I think everyone's here just to kind of like have goofy fun. So I'm going to stick with Goblin Quest for now, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
totally want to try it.
Yeah. The next game on the list is Invisible Empire. Steve, you want to set that one up?
Yeah, so Invisible Empire is another one of the games that comes out of Epediah Ravishall's Worlds Without Master magazine.
Right.
And he also designed the game, just to be explicit. It's a, like, tell me a story game, sort of like, what am I thinking? The Extraordinary Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Oh, yeah.
Where on your turn, you're telling a story. These tend to be a little shorter in Invisible Empire. But anyway, Invisible Empire, it's very sword and sorcery. And you are all summoned to or visitors to the court of the Silent Emperor. And the Silent Emperor, true to his name, is silent, does not say a word. But in his eternal boredom, he seeks entertainment. And so you must entertain him by telling a story. And if that goes poorly, you may very well be killed. But if it goes well, you get aplomb and applause, whatever. So mechanically, I've only played the once. It's been too long.
Awe and Dread.
Awe and
that's
Dread,
right.
yeah, the tones.
Yeah. It's sort of like Swords Without Master. This is a hack of Swords Without Master, I think, right? Or at least
It shares
superficially.
DNA.
It seems like it,
I don't know if it's
yeah.
officially a hack.
Yeah,
but
okay.
It definitely shares DNA.
Yeah, the tone of the audience chamber is you roll dice to determine that before going in, and that's basically the tone of the audience, I think, right? And then your story,
Yeah, there's like
can
an
have
overtone that's like the tone of the court, and
Right.
then your individual character has their own individual tone, which may or may not match the mood of the court,
Right.
right? And you know, the whole big thrust of the game is you are telling a story. You're hoping that it will not bore the Silent Emperor,
right.
and there's also a die mechanic that might force you to lie to the Silent Emperor, and the
Or
more,
omit something important.
yeah. And the more you do that, and the more you bore him, the greater the chance your character has of being sent off to a rather fabulous death, for being honest, like in terms of like deaths. But he will kill you, and so you're just kind of trying to avoid that fate for your guy. And everybody else at the table while you're doing your little story, everyone else at the table is like kind of RPing the court and like what's happening at court as they're listening to your story,
Right.
and they're supposed to RP the court in the manner of the overtone, right? So
Right.
yeah, it's great. You know, it's pretty small in scope in terms of like what gets done in the game. You know, it's just a few people getting up and telling their story, and some of them die and some of them don't, and that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
There's no real like plot or anything that happens, but I like it a lot. What are your thoughts on it, Dan?
Yeah, I like it. And like, I think that despite, you know, you can say that it doesn't really have a plot, but I feel like things start to sort of crystallize.
They do, yeah.
And
A
like,
story kinda comes together.
You don't
Yeah.
necessarily have like a solid like through line for this plot, but like, as you pick up on other people's stories and all of that and sort of reincorporate things, you know, you sort of,
recall, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You're sort of building the world around the court, which is really cool.
It feels great. Yeah, it feels really, really good. It's a solid game. We've talked about it a little bit before. This was the first time I had actually read the rules in preparation for it, and I got a good sense of like what was kind of happening in it. And, I like it and I want more of it. Like, I'm really, really pumped about Worlds Without Master just in general right now. Like, that's what's kind of just, it's giving me everything I want in like the hobby right now. And so,
Yeah, cool.
I'm really loving it, and I can't wait to dig into some of those other games. You know?
I really want to play the game where you, a 2-player game. One person is basically the dungeon, and the other person is a delver who's retrieved some great treasure and is trying to escape it. And you light matches and have to tell a bit of the story before the match burns down to your finger. That sort of thing. That one sounds.
Oh, you actually
amazing.
light a match?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You're
nice.
literally
Yeah.
playing with fire
Yes.
while you're playing
That's
this
nice.
game.
Wow. Yeah.
I really want to emphasize how great the deaths are, because the page after the game ends
in Invisible Empire.
Yes, sorry. The page after Invisible Empire ends is just random roll of very elaborate deaths.
Incredibly elaborate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Dan, was it your?
Let me set the scene, because you're supposed to sort of like narrate how you roll on a table or whatever and look it up, and then you narrate for the rest of the table how you're killed. So like, I think that I had just like a moment of sheer panic when I read my thing, and it was like, murdered by necromancers and then brought back on the 3rd, 6th, and 9th anniversary of your death and sent back in time to consume your past self.
Right.
And it was like, okay, now I get to try to describe this. And,
happening. Yeah. There's a couple of good ones that I remember. One was the Silent Emperor has all of your skin removed and replaced with glass plates, so that you can you will be just like you'll be just like an object in the court where people can study anatomy.
Right.
Look at the wonders of your anatomy. Yeah.
I think you can have your head cut off and put on a statue replica of yourself in the Garden of Screams or something. Right? So,
yes.
They're
all
perfect.
very amazing and evocative deaths.
But you know, Worlds Without Master, I'm only on like the second or third one in terms of like getting through them, but like Worlds Without Master, I'm loving it because it's got like, the people that he has contributing to this effort are so creative and so interesting, and the stories are so cool. And, they're taking a genre, the swords and sorcery, which, you know, we all kind of know and we all kind of fundamentally understand, right? But like, and just kind of like adding to it, but also like expounding on it. And, I just really dig it. It's a really, really terrific Patreon. People should definitely take a look at Worlds Without Master for sure. Is there anything else we want to say about Invisible Empire?
I'm good.
Nope.
All right, cool. that leaves. Okay, so we played a variety of card games and board games this week. I want to just kind of go through them pretty quickly. I don't want to go into too much detail on those. I played Love Letter. Love Letter's amazing. We've talked about it before, and it's probably one of my favorite card games. Go check out Love Letter. Yeah, it's an awesome one. Steve, you had quite a few that you went through, right?
Yeah, I've I think it was like buried in my trunk, so I recently rediscovered Jungle Speed.
That was cool. Yeah, I didn't get to play it, but that looked really cool.
Yeah. So Jungle Speed, everyone has their own, you divide the deck between the players, and everybody has their own stack. On your turn, you flip a card, and you are looking for a match. Your card will have like different colored shapes. And so you're looking to match that shape up with somebody else's deck. And if that happens, you both grab for this plastic totem in the center of the table. Whoever gets that wins the duel and gives all of their face-up cards to the other person. Goal is to run out of cards first. There's a lot more to it than that, but the game is diabolical because there are typically 4 shapes in any given like set of shapes that all look just so very close.
They're very close. Yeah, they look really similar.
And so if you grab the totem when you weren't supposed to, or if you knock it over, you take everybody's face-up cards, and then turn them over, put them under your deck, and so you're much farther away from winning. And so reflexes are a thing, but if you're too reliant on them, then you're screwed because you're grabbing the totem all the time when you shouldn't be. And it ends up being a ton of fun, and it's super cheap too. It's like $10 or $15.
Oh wow, yeah, it was cool. It was. We had kind of wrapped up what we were doing, and so we went and watched you guys playing it at your table, and it was pretty fun. It looked neat. It looked really, really just a good time. I'm not really like great at like reflex games, and neither is Russ, by the way.
Boy, is that true.
But I could get into it though. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It was neat, cool thing. What else?
I also played. Let's see. I finally got to play Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and Witness, which are 2 investigation-focused board games from Istari Games, Ystari.
Oh, yeah,
I think it's a French company.
Yeah.
And Witness, I only got to play the like intro one, but Witness is a more elaborate game of telephone, basically, where you can only play it with 4 players, which is why it took me a while to get it to the table. Person 1 whispers to person 2 the thing they learned from their specific booklet. Person 3 whispers to person 4 the thing they know from their specific booklet. Then person 2 whispers to 3 what they know from their booklet and what they learned from 1. Person 4 whispers to 1 what they learned from 3, and it gets progressively more elaborate.
We got it. Yeah.
And towards the end, I was I had everybody. I knew everything everyone else had whispered to me, but I'd forgotten the name of the dude in my booklet, and it was pathetic. So I was whispering to Scott, and Scott's going, "I know some of this is wrong," and I was like, "Oh, never mind. I remember it's the name starts with an A. That's all I can tell you. Starts with an A. I don't remember." So it was Troy. Because like at a certain point your short-term memory just starts booting that information out the door.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did the simplest one, so I'd love to try some of the more, there's like 60 cases, so I'd love to try some of the more elaborate ones. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is you get to like feel like Sherlock Holmes, basically. If there's a case, you read the intro, it's very text-based. And from that starting point, it'll describe somebody bringing the case to you, probably, and then initial facts of the case, or at least theoretically. And from there, you have a big map of London. The map has a bunch of different location, like key codes, basically. So if you want to go to the hotel where a murder happened, then you look up. There's a little booklet where you look it up. You figure out where that is. You find it on the map, maybe to see where it is in relation to other things, and your case booklet will have a specific entry for that. And you will hopefully learn clues unless you're going off on a wild goose chase and looking in places you shouldn't. And there's never a smoking gun, but once you get to a point where you think, you know what's going on, then you flip to the end where Sherlock Holmes comes in and, condescendingly tells you exactly what happened. And of course you should have known that. You really have to pay attention and interpret clues and eliminate anything that is not necessarily supported by the evidence. It requires you to be pretty smart, and you inevitably won't be in certain cases, probably. It's a ton of fun though. I played the first time I played with there were 3 of us, and we were just sort of working collaboratively, which I think is probably the way to go. Maybe skip case 3 because there are some translation issues there, but or at least be aware of that going in. But it's a ton of fun. I highly recommend it. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is a really great game. Did I leave anything off? No.
Nope. All right, cool. Well, the next game, role-playing game that you and I were involved in, Steve, correct? You were there, weren't you? Yeah. Is The Quiet Year. The Quiet Year is by Avery McDaldno. It is a game. I don't even think it's really a role-playing game, is it?
I don't think so.
No, it's really not. It's not really a role-playing game. It's kind of a board game. It's more of an exercise, an activity.
Well, it's a story game. I mean, you're telling
you create a story, certainly.
Yeah, real bird's eye though. I mean, like,
oh sure,
yeah,
like not, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. So anyway, the Quiet Year is this game by Avery McDaldno. We've played it a bunch. It's great. You are a community who has 1 year to try to prepare for the frost shepherds. So it's like post-apocalyptic thing. There's a lot of like scarce resources. You have 1 year in which to rebuild or prepare your community for the inevitable arrival of the frost shepherds. The game never explains what the frost shepherds are, and in fact, it's supposed to stay kind of like vague.
Yeah.
The gameplay involves basically you draw a card every round. The card like says, a mysterious visitor arrives in your community. What are they doing that's causing so much problem? So many problems. Or you draw a card and it says, a project finishes early, or you draw another card that says, something happened to one of your supplies, and so erase that thing or whatever, right? Yeah. So you have all these things that happen, and so you resolve that, and then when it's your turn, you can have, you get to basically take an action that is either having a discussion about something in the community, or starting a project, or revealing something that's taking place in the environment somehow.
Yeah.
Right?
Which means drawing on the map that you're all collaboratively
yeah, exactly.
creating.
And in the case of the project, and then the revealing a detail about the environment, you draw it on the map, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you just do that, and then your projects are gradually ticking down round by round until they're complete, or they get like sidetracked in some way or destroyed. Then those you cross them off, and you just do that over the course of not quite 52 weeks, because sometimes the frost shepherds come early. In fact, they're most likely going to come early. Yeah. But you do that for like 4 seasons until it's over. And then you have a discussion after the game is over about whether you think your community survives. Like what do you think that they made it or not?
And in our case, no.
No, they definitely did not. We were fucked. A couple of nice features of the game. It's called The Quiet Year for a couple different reasons, but there's a very like meta at the table reason why it's called The Quiet Year, in which you don't talk. You're not supposed to talk out of turn. There's no table talk. You have to talk like sort of just to discuss like certain aspects of projects, like how long you think it's going to take to complete a project or whatever. But otherwise you don't talk. When you're having a discussion, however, an official triggered by the mechanics discussion, you can you basically go around the table once and state like one sentence about your thoughts on the topic being discussed. So that's an interesting aspect of the game, and that I like quite a bit. What are your thoughts on it, Steve? It was the first time you'd played it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I really love centering your game on a map that you guys are making as you go along, and playing the game involves adding to it and refining it and crossing things off. And I had the vaguest notion of doing something like that, years and years ago, and now I don't have to. Somebody else did. So I really love that. I also cannot believe that I'd never realized that there are 52 cards in a deck and 52
weeks in a year.
Yeah. And there are 4 suits and 4 seasons. And it does sort of have the unpredictable in-game thing that you find in that. Like my experience was with 1001 Nights.
Oh,
and
sure.
Also Ribbon Drive.
Yeah.
And
of games we've played recently. Yeah.
And it did, but it didn't seem like it was a big deal. But it makes the like runtime unpredictable.
Sure. Yeah. The game. Yeah. I think like we got the frost shepherds really early.
As early as possible.
It was the first winter one. Yeah. So it just like abruptly stopped.
Yeah.
And we didn't see that coming, but I don't think it takes away from it too much. No, it's not a big deal. I mean, because you're telling a very, very bird's eye level story here, right? Like you have a few named characters that come up as a result of the cards, but only when the cards say name them. And you're not supposed to focus the story on any individual character. You're supposed to, as a player, you represent 2 things. You represent like the cross current of thought, a cross current of thought in the community. And then you also represent like, what do they say? A dispassionate, a dispassionate scientist or something, like trying to see what's going to happen to the community, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. So because of that, like, it's not like there's a real like traditional story you're invested in to where if it ends abruptly, you feel like you're cheated or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But Dan, what are your thoughts on the Quiet Year?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And I might like ruin my reputation here, but I think that there is a hack of the Quiet Year called the Deep Forest, which is a fantasy hack where it's dealing with like decolonialism, where these fantasy creatures had their little fantasy wonderland that they lived in, and then the humans came and fucked everything up. But then the humans left abruptly, and then it's about the fantasy creatures sort of reclaiming the woods. And I think that I actually like that even better than the Quiet Year.
Huh, okay.
It's a little bit more collaborative. It feels like you're cooperating a little bit more to tell a story.
You don't have to be quiet in that one, I guess.
It does not have the same restrictions, like the same level of restrictions. Okay. It's a little bit more like I feel like one of the cool things about the Quiet Year is kind of as you're going, I think that you sort of naturally start to assume like, I am the crazy conservative guy or something, right? Like,
yeah.
Or like, I'm the dirty hippie. And so like
I am the voice of reason. Why are we making slaves?
Yeah. So you sort of start like, you come to a decision about like what aspect you're playing, and then you do that, and it makes sense because like everyone sort of feels out where the gaps are and start filling those in. So you have like a lot of different like the community's being pulled in a lot of different directions.
Yeah,
that's not really how the deep forest goes though, because you are like there's a lot more named characters that you're jumping into, and you're speaking for the characters. So you actually have like, you're embodying the characters as you play it, but you're not embodying the same character. So you're jumping around to whoever seems most interesting at that time. And so you don't get like locked into like, well, this guy's doing everything I fucking hate.
Right, yeah.
So like, it's a lot more of a feel good.
When I play the Quiet Year, I always become that crazy woman admiral in Battlestar Galactica. Do you remember her? I don't remember. I don't remember the character's name, but she's a great character. But like, I always like take that. I always I always want to go into that view because it's like this. Because it's not how I am in real life, but like it feels like, you know, this is a desperate circumstance and, you know, sacrifices have to be made. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. We have to,
I love that that's what's in your head.
You know, like, I mean, it's just true. So anyway, but no, so yeah, I could see that being quite different though.
Yeah.
That Deep Forest sounds pretty different. I haven't played that one yet, but, it sounds pretty cool. I would love to.
One more thing. So the Quiet Year, so you're supposed to be quiet at most points. And so when somebody else is doing something that you feel parts of the community will, you know, not be happy with, they have, what are they called? Contempt
tokens.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
How can you forget that? Jeez, that's the best part of the game.
And so instead of voicing your displeasure, you're supposed to be like, we're not going to address the bandits. Okay. So you just grab a contempt token from the center of the table and pull it towards you. Okay. That's all. All right.
It's a good feature of the game.
Just wait until my turn.
It's a really good feature of the game.
So in the deep forest, in the deep wood, deep forest.
Is it deep? I can't remember.
It's deep forest. Yeah. In the deep forest, they still have contempt tokens, but you put them on creatures on the map because you're like, this guy would not like that, and so you put the contempt token on a place on a guy on the map. And so then when you're controlling him, like if you jump into him, then, you know, you're angry about it or whatever. But as a player, you're not collecting the contempt tokens yourself. And so I think that like keeps you from going into the like, I am this mindset and like, I am always angry at you because you are trying to do things that I don't like. So that's one of the things that makes it a little bit more like feel good than the Quiet Year.
I don't feel like there was any real antagonism between the players in the Quiet Year.
No, we were, sometimes in the Quiet Year, everyone kind of gets on the same page a little bit about things. And we had a little bit of that going on. I don't think that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a natural thing that happens sometimes, you know. But, so that could have been part of it. We didn't have any, like, I remember we've played it before. Dan and I played it in the early days of Gauntlet, where like we had one guy who was just so dissatisfied with everything that was happening. And his contempt stack was like, you know, it looked like
we
it
had
was
to
a tower.
get more contempt tokens several times.
He was so unhappy with how it was all going. And of course he was also fucking the game up by talking the whole time, like a fucking asshole. But he's gone now, but sadly not dead. But sorry, Dan. Anyway, no, The Quiet Year is terrific. I love it, and I want to play more of it. I want to play the Deep Forest. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, that just leaves the very final thing, which all three of us were at, which is the Whispering Road. Dan, why don't you set that up since you prepped for it?
The Whispering Road is like a Studio Ghibli. I don't even know how to say that word.
Yeah, me neither.
But it's like the Disney of Japan, right? Their anime studio who did Spirited Away and all of that. So it's aiming to tell a story like that. So it's very different from what we normally play, right? This is not necessarily up our alley, but it's sort of a laid back, like, you know, you're all a bunch of kids on an adventure type of thing. And it's kind of explicitly nonviolent and all of that. You are...
Whoops.
Well, I mean, the rules are like, you can't get killed or anything like that. Okay. And I don't think we ever killed anybody in our game. Like, they may have all turned out to be robots. They were all robots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a high action game.
Yeah, we kind of did. Yeah. But the idea is that it's a game in 5 acts, right? You're going along, and the first act, well, initially you sort of set up the world, and you decide where all the characters come from and sort of what their jam is. And
so it's like Studio Ghibli meets like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or Time Bandits or something. Yeah. You're going into a different world,
right? Or just Spirited Away. But
I haven't actually seen that.
Studio Ghibli meets Studio Ghibli, right?
Oh, okay. I have seen 0 Studio Ghibli movies.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. Yeah.
But yeah, so you kind of decide where your characters are from and what sort of fantastic world they're going to get sucked into, because like Act 1 is you fall through a portal or fall into a book or you get sucked into a video game or something and wind up in this fantastic world where you have to sort of feel out what's going on and you're discovering the world. And then Act 2, you meet the antagonists who are doing bad things in the world and who are threatening this wonderful new world you find yourself in. Act 3, you meet allies who can help you, and you're discovering like what the allies have that can help you and how that can turn the tides against the antagonists. Act 4, everything goes bad, and like you end up in a dark place where the antagonists look like they're going to win. And then Act 5, you figure out how to fight back and win and go home or not, depending on how thoughtfully you've played your character. If you've been acting selfishly, then you wind up getting stuck in the fantasy world. But if you've been acting like non-selfishly and helping others meet their needs rather than trying to meet your own needs, then you will earn the right to go home and be changed for the better and all of that. So yeah, that's the gist.
So that 5-act structure, what does that remind you of? What game does that remind you of?
Oh, well, it's very Misspent Youth.
It's Misspent Youth, yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I wanted to play it, because like I love that aspect of Misspent Youth, because you know, I really like the idea of we have these formulas in storytelling that are tried and true, and you know, we know that a story that goes through and hits these beats will be satisfying on some level, right? Maybe you're not the best storyteller in the world, but if you stick to this formula, like the story that comes out will probably be pretty good.
I have mixed feelings on that, but I hear what you're saying. I think for the most part, I'm definitely not into like the whole hero's journey thing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you don't necessarily have to tell the same story, but
yeah.
I mean, it's a pacing thing, right?
You
don't want to spend, you don't want to spend like
the
equivalent of 4 acts, like exploring the world and then try to shoehorn in the antagonist and everything else at the end, right?
Yeah.
So like it makes sure you stay on track to tell a complete story within a set amount of time.
I love that aspect of the game, that 5-act structure and what you do in each one of them. And like you said, it's very similar to Misspent Youth. I was not as happy with the sort of structure within the act, like the actual structure of the game within the act. That was where,
because it's GM-less.
It's GM-less, and
it doesn't replace the GM with enough shared, authority. I guess.
Yeah. Well, so did you finish your setup on that? I don't want to dive into
so why don't we go into mechanics? Because I think that's good for like giving an idea of what the story you're trying to tell, right?
Sure.
So the mechanics are, you sort of pick a bunch of traits that you're going to use. You have 5 traits unless you pick a certain character archetype, because you have 4 character archetypes. You can be an ordinary hero, a special one who has some sort of power or special knowledge. You can be a mentor who's older and looking out for the other people and trying to guide them, or you can be a rascal. who
Rascal.
you need to show people the goodness of your soul if you're a rascal. So depending on which archetype you get a different number of traits. Never explained why.
Yeah.
And it's weirdly unbalanced, it seems like. If you're a rascal, you just happen to get more traits than anybody else.
Yeah.
But anyway, you pick a number of traits off this list, and there's some things that are like protector or something, or like loves everyone, right? And then there's some more fantastic things like animal empathy,
or
and
you can
power
fly.
of flight. Yeah. So you pick some of these things, you get 5 to 7 of these traits, and as you're going through, like, you kind of start introducing a scene, collaboratively, you build this scene until it comes to a point. Theoretically, it should just come to a point kind of naturally where there's a conflict, and then you decide like whose needs are up for the conflict. So maybe I need to impress another character, and so this conflict gives me the perfect opportunity to impress this other character. So like, I want to try to do this. And then everyone around the table can use their traits to like help me meet my need. Yeah. And if so, then they get good karma and it makes them closer to going home at the end. Or I can use my traits to try and meet my need, which is acting selfishly and thus like making it less likely I'll get back home. And you're building a die pool by tapping these traits, and you have a limited number, and they only a certain number refresh in between every act. Yeah. So you're kind of limited. It doesn't actually fall into the same trap of a lot of die pool building games where it's like, I'm always going to use these 8 things. Right.
That was a good summary of the rules. Well, so what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the rules, Steve?
Or
the mechanics, I should say.
So when we were setting up the conflict or deciding what any given scene would end up being about, since there's no like scene guide, right? There's no person temporarily in charge of bringing in antagonism or of setting up what the conflict will be about, and so you're sort of setting up your own hurdle to jump over. And I think inevitably maybe our hurdles ended up being a little small. And I think it could really help. It could really benefit from somebody setting up an antagonism for somebody else, even if it's just the person to my left. It was
kind of violating the Sega principle a little bit, wasn't it? I mean, a little bit, yeah. Because I kept running into that. I felt like there were distinct moments in the game where I felt like everyone just looking at me, waiting on me to do a scene to put my thing in play, you know? And I was like, okay. And so I would just think of the thing that my guy wants to do, and then I would think of the problem, and then we'd go from, and it felt a little awkward. It didn't feel, I didn't like it. I mean, I have a hard time with games that are GM-less, but don't have a sufficient structure in place to replace the GM, right? And this game did not. Like, it felt a little loosey-goosey and chaotic to me.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's fine if you don't have anybody guiding the scene, if there's not really a point to the scene beyond RP, but you're supposed to be working toward a conflict here.
Right.
And like, yeah, it is weird to not have anybody be able to say it's my turn to say what the conflict is, so I'm going to do that. So like, instead everybody was like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes and yank the story in this weird direction, because the game's never given me permission to do that, right? And so I think there's kind of a hesitancy of like, everyone's trying to play like conscientiously, maybe a little too much.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
And like, nobody wants to like yank the story in a weird direction, and so like, it kind of can lead to a situation where the story just doesn't really go anywhere.
I mean, even in like the classic, rules light GM-less game Fiasco, there is authority, who gets to frame and who gets to decide, there's a turn order, like it's still,
and 50% of the time it's going to go pear-shaped. It'll be bad.
Yeah. Like it's still got like there's a structure there, right? Yeah. Like it's not so freeform as people would like to think of Fiasco sometimes, right? This game really is. It's got this like really nice, pleasant outer structure, but then it's like the inner structure of each act was hard for me.
And I think that like as an excellent illustration of this, our antagonists were called the antagonists through a large portion of the game, because no one wanted to like be the one who's going to put the name on there.
Right. Hey, but then we fixed it and we called them Antagonine Corp.
Yeah, they were a corporation.
Yeah, that was good.
Antagonine, that was good. Yeah, The Whispering Road. It's honestly, I don't think it's a game I really care to revisit. I'm glad we played it. I'm sure it might be one of those things where the designer of the game and his friends have a real good handle on how it's supposed to go, and
Right.
and so there's they're missing some of the context in the rules or something. I'm not sure, but I think Dream
I don't want to say that without knowing how
I don't know
extensive
for, I don't know
playtesting
for
went.
sure, but I think Dream Askew had that problem, right? Like Dream Askew really reads like a game that, like, unless you're hanging out with Avery McDonald and her friends, like you're missing you're missing something, like you're going to be missing something critical for like how to make that game work, right? That was our experience with it anyway. So I don't know. The Whispering Road, it was I like what it was trying to do.
Yeah. But I think for my heartwarming role playing, I'll stick with Golden Sky Stories.
I agree. Golden
Yeah.
Sky Stories. Yeah.
I didn't expect to like that game, and it ended up being pretty
Yeah,
fun.
me too. Yeah. I took a dump on that game for years practically before we played it. Yeah,
I had to build credit for like
I know, you
years
did. I
before
know.
I was able
Forgot
to
to play
get
that
Golden
one.
Sky Stories
Yeah.
to the table. So
But it was good. It was a good game. Cool. Why don't we take a break and go to the next segment? Our next segment, as always, is Giving Me Life. This is where we talk about things that are not necessarily related to role-playing games that are giving us life. Dan, what is giving you life this week?
mine's going to be real quick. What's giving me life is a computer game. It's called Infinifactory.
That's a great name.
It is. It's really fantastic.
It's like straight out of like 1995. That name.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy who made this game, I don't know if it's at more than one guy or not. It's Zachtronics Industries or something.
That's a good name,
wow,
too.
yeah.
Wow.
And if you have questions about the game, you can email Zach at Zachtronic Industries.
Yes,
So
yes.
I suspect it may just be one dude, but he makes fantastic games, and he makes these puzzle games, and they're like ridiculous brain burners that make you feel incredibly smart when you actually finish them. So I tend to stop playing these games at some point when I realize, like, I just spent 2 hours solving that puzzle. And like looking back on it, it's like, maybe this isn't the best use of my time. But like, it's fantastic because what you're doing in this one is you've been captured by aliens. It's like a first person game. So you start off and you're like driving your truck through the desert or whatever. And I think if you look to the side, you can see that you're obviously like a construction foreman or something because you have blueprints and a hard hat on the car seat next to you. And then you get abducted by aliens and taken to the alien world where you're forced to construct factories for them. And they have these machines that just spit out components. They spit out a never-ending stream of components, and you have to lay down conveyor belts and like lathes and rotating things and welding things to try to turn the components into the finished product that you then like put on a conveyor belt and send to the place that beams it back out. And so when you actually get it working, it's beautiful because you have like in 3D space, like all these blocks are moving along conveyor belts and falling down holes and getting welded together and spinning around, and like the whole thing's coming together and being constructed. And oh man, it's fantastic. I love it. It even has a story. You get audio logs of all the failures who they picked up before you.
I like that.
They clearly don't understand Earth culture and like Earth in general, because one of the things you find, like when you get beamed up, they put you in this space suit. And one of the first failures you find is a dog in a spacesuit. And the audio log is just like barking. When you do a good job, like you go back to your cell after every machine you build, and they send kibble down the chute to you. And like if you do a really good job, you get to like go to this award ceremony where they'll give you like random shit they picked up on Earth. So you get like a soccer participation trophy, an exercise VHS. So
I love it.
like the story is minimal but fantastic,
It's
and
good.
it serves the purposes perfectly.
That's perfect,
So,
yeah.
And it will make you feel really smart until you realize you've spent all of Saturday building machines. So
Cool. That sounds fun.
You're in-game smart.
yes.
Yeah.
You may not be making good life decisions
Right.
outside of the game, but inside the game, you made an awesome like rocket building factory. So Infinifactory, it's great.
Cool. I have two things giving me life this week.
That sounds like cheating.
It's not cheating. I'm calling a, what is it, calling an audible? Is that what you said last time when you made something up on the fly?
That is probably a thing I said.
Okay, I think so. I don't even know what that means. It's a football,
Good
basketball
job, yeah,
thing, right?
good
Basketball
job
thing,
pandering
right?
to our
Yeah.
like audience's hatred of sports.
Yes,
Good
I know.
work.
Okay, so here's the thing. Right before we started recording, Dan let us try out his dev kit version of Oculus Rift, which is that virtual reality thing. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since we did it. Like the whole time we've been recording this podcast, I've only been able to think. It was the first time I'd ever tried one, and I can't stop thinking about it. And that makes me think it's the future, and I'm pumped about it. So awesome!
I just treasure the mental image of you with the Oculus Rift on, and I have no idea what you're seeing, and you just look down and you go, "Oh, look at my space pants."
My space pants. Yeah, it was great.
I'm glad that now you're on board.
I am. Yeah, I'm a believer.
For so long, I've been telling you it's the future, and
I'm
you've
a
just
believer.
been shitting on VR. It'll never work.
I'm
Oculus will never even release a product.
I'm a believer. No, it's cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, so I'm glad that it took like 10 seconds of you having it on your face.
Yeah, it really did.
Okay, this is the future.
Yep,
so,
it really did.
Yeah.
I am convinced. All right, cool. The thing that I planned on talking about for Giving Me Life, though, is D&D, but not Dungeons and Dragons, deleting and divesting, or maybe deleting and discarding. Here's what I mean. We live in an unprecedented age of choice, like consumer choice. There are so many video games and so many books and so many TV shows, really good TV shows and movies, and you can get these things easily. You can have as much as you want. It's all relatively inexpensive, compared to 20 years ago. So much stuff. And I find it oppressive. I reach a point every now and then where I feel absolutely paralyzed by the amount of stuff I have staring at me that wants to be addressed, and it wants to be dealt with, and I don't have a Steam account, but I have a PS Plus account, and you get free games constantly. You get 4 free games a month. I can't finish one game in a month, much less 4 of them,
right.
And they're not bad games. They're usually pretty good games. So those are just piling up. I've got I buy so many PDFs, role-playing game PDFs and magazines and things that I need to get to. It's just too much. I actually do read, so I have a lot of books that I need to get to. Board games. I've got my Netflix queue is insane right now.
You're going to die before you finish your Netflix.
Yeah, I know. I find myself getting really, really kind of depressed about it, honestly. My boyfriend's, his area of academic research, he's an academic, is consumer behavior, right? That's what he does.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not your boyfriend.
Yeah, maybe not. I know. Oh no, I'm an experiment. Oh no, I didn't sign a waiver though. So anyway, no. But he was telling me that that's a thing. It's a modern notion of this crippling choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I took a bunch of games back to GameStop. I hadn't been to GameStop in 5 years or something, but I'd managed to acquire a bunch of physical games that were not getting played. Let's talk about GameStop. Holy shit. I don't want to business defame them, but they're not going to listen to this.
Wait,
what a shithole.
Weren't you saying that you went to GameStop to get Monster Hunter, blah, blah, whatever?
Well, no, I was
that?
I was actually going to trade it in, but, but no, I was going to trade in some games. And, this is a digression, but that GameStop, okay, it smelled like sweat and Cheetos. It was revolting.
Wow.
There were 85 people in line. The employee looked like he was on meth, which was kind of the side bonus was he was working through the line really fast, so that was good. it was such a horrible experience. GameStop, their business model is terrific, but it's not my jam. But anyway, so I was trading in these games, and I traded in 5 or 6 games, and it felt really good when I was done. I was I went home, and those games were no longer sitting on my shelf, guilting me from not having played them, making me feel guilty for not playing them. I felt really, really good. And so then I've started making lists of things that okay, I'm having honest conversations about am I really going to play this game? Delete, am I really going to play this board game? It's going on the pile. Am I going to really, even my role-playing game stuff. I don't like to get rid of role-playing game stuff, but I've got a few books on the shelf where Numenera, you know what? That's never getting played. It's just not,
I'm surprised you have Numenera.
I do. I don't know. I do. Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
It comes from his Kickstarter addiction.
No. I just bought that straight up out of the store.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
So you have no excuse.
No excuse. Yeah. I was thumbing through. I was this is cool. All right. And I bought it. It was
it's got an awesome little map, if nothing else.
It's got some cool things about it, but I'm never going to play it. And I have no intention of looking at the book anymore. So, so that's one thing. There's just a bunch of stuff where it's oh God, board games. I've got some really sweet ass board games, that I know I'm never going to play. And so I'm trying to be really honest with myself. Am I going to actually do this or play this thing? No? Okay, then I'm going to get it out of my life. And it feels good.
Yeah.
Note for listeners, I have a bunch of board games and shit going up. I usually like offer them to the Gauntlet first. I post pictures and stuff with prices, and they'll be dirt cheap. So if you keep your eyes open for that, otherwise it's going to Craigslist or Board Game Geek. So
there's a real purpose for this segment. This is all a lead up to your sales pitch.
To pitch my Gauntlet Craigslist ad. Yeah,
slip it in right at the end.
Yeah. I'm also selling a sofa.
We had a dude once. Remember?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, we did. Okay, cool. Well, Steve, what's giving you life this week?
Okay, so recently the 5th season of the Game of Thrones ended, and I'm going to
spoil all of it.
There's a lot of research that shows that spoilers do not detract from your enjoyment of things.
Yeah,
at all.
I've actually read that spoilers increase your enjoyment.
I think they do.
Yeah,
I've taken to just
counterintuitively they do.
Yeah, I think they do because I've taken to just going and going to Wikipedia or Reddit or whatever and figuring out all the shit before I watch it, and I do. I enjoy it more because I can pay attention to like things that I wouldn't otherwise pay attention to.
You've talked me into it. Let's just ruin the whole thing.
Let's go for it.
I will not do that. But after that ended, I've been thinking a lot.
Arya dies. It's really tragic.
They rip her fucking head off.
Yeah.
and
then all the wolves, one after the other. I don't even know how many are still alive, but they just murder them all,
9
one after the other.
Yeah.
When Jaqen H'ghar puts Arya's face on his face, though, it's kind of like the same character. So.
It's true, yeah.
So I've been thinking a lot about it, and I love the A Song of Ice and Fire books. Not unreservedly. There are problems.
They're terrible books. They're fun to read, but they're really awful. Let's just throw that out there, right? They're really bad.
And the show, more problems. But when the show goes off, I sort of started thinking about and looking into when is George R.R. Martin going to get off, or I guess on his ass, and continue writing finish up with the 6th book. Motherfucker's going to die. Oh man,
don't say that. I don't want to be one of those people who's like, oh, George R.R. Martin, hurry up and please me, George R.R. Martin. Like, I don't want to be that guy.
I kind of feel like I don't think he has any intention of finishing. I think that he wrote himself into whatever corner that he wrote himself into, and then he saw the way out, which was a team
TV
of writers
show
from HBO can just finish this.
Yep.
And I feel like he's just whatever, he's checked out, and he's just going off. And
I'd be.
That's what I'd do, man.
I'd go out and spend my Song of Ice and Fire millions. That's what I'd be doing. I mean, to hell with you, fanboy. And
I'd buy your theory a little bit more if the TV show hadn't wildly diverged from the last couple of books.
It really did too.
Yeah.
But he's put out 2 books in the last 15 years. I think that's right. Yeah.
He's got his pace. He's got his pace. He's got his pace.
Anyway, it pains me. So what I've been sort of diverting myself with is going on 2 sources. I think the Tower of the Hand website and then the Song of Ice and Fire Reddit subreddit.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good
one.
one.
I've been looking into completely insane and implausible A Song of Ice and Fire.
They're so good, though. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones.
So I will avoid the obvious one that everybody already knows, because there are a few people that don't. But a few of my favorites are that I also just recently, last night, started rereading the 2nd book in preparation for 6 years from now that 6th book's going to come out. And there's a character that doesn't appear on the show, right? Called Patchface, which is
it's a good character, which is
a
lot of the conspiracies flow from him.
Yeah. I'm only aware of.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Actually, I don't even know if he ties into it. I'm just. It just reminded me.
They say all of his little dumb poem song things that he does, they tell you the whole story.
I'm taking notes on this read through. And he was saying some stuff. And it's oh yeah, I'm writing that down. I'm especially looking for.
You're literally turning into a crazy person. You're gonna head down to your bunker with your notebooks and figure out.
I may have started from that.
Do you have stickies connected to each other with string?
Right, your walls are just covered in notes.
No, but there was a Dresden Files game like that, and I just at the end it just made me want to shoot myself. So where was I? Oh, okay. Anyway, so Patchface is Stannis' fool, right? And Patchface was being brought over from the Essos, from the continent to the east, by Stannis and
helpfully
Roberts.
called Essos. The one on the west is called Westeros.
Westeros, Essos, and Sothorion.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
They're shitty books. I mean, it cannot be stated enough how shitty these books are.
I hope this isn't official, but I've encountered people on the at least Reddit referring to the world as Planetos.
Oh no! Oh my! No!
But like Patchface is, so he was being brought over by Robert and Stannis' parents, and then their ship crashes right outside of where everybody is, right outside of Dragon Island. I forget.
Dragonstone.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, everybody dies. Bodies keep washing up on the shore. And third day of everyone should be dead, bodies washing up on the shore, there comes Patchface, who is now simple, but he's still a fool, right? But he's I wouldn't call them jokes, but he keeps referring to how things are under the sea, and they're clearly intended to be a joke. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Under the sea, snow falls up. I know, and bullshit like this.
Yeah.
But there's a conspiracy theory about him maybe being a mer person, basically. Or
I hadn't heard that one.
Well, he's not alone, because Wyman Manderley is also a mer person, and so is Varys, and you can tell because they're all real fat.
That's the quality of being a mer person.
Well, Varys and Wyman Manderley, they're older, so the mer people expand.
They're like tropical fish. Like they fill the size of their container, so when you take them out of the ocean, they just swell.
Patchface isn't quite as big, but he is mentioned as chubby because he's only like 20s or something.
Yeah.
That one's fun and completely retarded. Maybe, wait, I'll list my second favorite. Second favorite is that Howland Reed, who is maybe the only character left alive who knows a big thing that I won't spoil, and might be the only way that we will officially learn about it, right? And it seems odd that he's been absent from the book except in mention and in flashback. Anyway, Howland Reed is the High Sparrow. He's the guy that is played by Jonathan Pryce on the show. And
is that confirmed? Howland Reed's the High Sparrow?
Oh, Christ, no.
No, that's the conspiracy.
That's a conspiracy. Oh, that's a conspiracy.
No. It is not true at all. It is complete nonsense. Howland Reed, keeps to the old gods and
right, yeah.
And presumably, presumably sent off, his kids to go assist Bran, right? And so his ascent to the equivalent of the Pope had to start like a year or two before it actually happened.
Yeah.
And so he had to learn.
Well, not even because the whole time span of the books is only like 9 months.
Oh, right, yeah. The books are much shorter. Yeah. It's and he's doing this to very gradually and obscurely get back at the Lannisters for murdering Ned or whatever. And I mean, I guess that character is kind of doing that, but I don't think that's the actual reason he's doing that.
No.
And it takes away from it being that this is finally a character who has power and is from the common folk, more or less, right? And so it would detract thematically, I think, pretty seriously from it. But the best character in disguise one is Benjen Stark is not dead.
Oh, yeah, there's tons related to Benjen, yeah.
Benjen Stark disappeared early on in the... he was a brother
First
of the Night's Watch.
Yeah. Or, it's like second chapter.
It was very early. Yeah. And he goes ranging beyond the Great Wall up north and just disappears. They never find hide nor hair of him, but they find like a severed hand from one of his men or something. And, well, that must be coincidence. Or maybe he had to kill them. I don't know. But in order to pull off his huge ruse, because he knew that he had to get to the east and bring Daenerys Targaryen back because she's the only one that can fight off the others and the White Walkers.
Yeah.
And so he knows that she's got to get together with Jon Snow for reasons. And so that's why he is Dario Naharis.
Oh, is he?
Oh, he is. He totally is.
Great.
It makes sense because it'd be cool. There we go.
Right. Yeah, that's how a lot of these conspiracy theories go. Yeah.
There's another one that is probably not true, but is probably the only one I've encountered where it kept bringing up a lot of interesting things that either I hadn't noticed or had forgotten. This is the one called, I think, The Great Northern Conspiracy.
Oh, that one is so complex.
Yeah.
That one's so complex.
It brings up a lot of...
Maybe we shouldn't get too deep.
We probably should
no.
not. Yeah.
It brings up a lot of
I'm so
interesting
sorry.
bits.
Right. Welcome to the Game of Thrones cast.
The Game of Thrones podcast. Yeah.
Listeners, sorry for bringing you down the gopher hole I have tripped and fallen into.
Yeah.
Well,
it really is. It is.
Yeah. Let me say, I'm incredibly disappointed that you didn't mention the best conspiracy theory.
Oh, I'm probably not aware of it.
Which is that Tyrion is the son of Daenerys because he was a time-traveling fetus.
No, I have encountered that.
yes.
Only in passing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like,
That's
the
good.
blood magic that
that's
killed
good, yeah.
Daenerys' child actually sent it back in time or something, time-traveling fetus, and Tyrion was born because, like, the description of her baby and Tyrion match up kind of closely.
Didn't her baby have wings or something and scales and shit?
Scales and stuff, but, like, in the book, Tyrion's kind of, like, scaly and gross.
Well, he's ugly. He's
And
not
also they
really
describe
scaly.
when Tyrion's a baby, they describe him as having like
A tail.
as a monster and having a
Right.
tail. Yeah,
Yep.
You're right. I'm on board.
I'm on board with it.
Yeah.
That's totally what it is. I'm on board with it. All right, listeners, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So sorry.
I'm so sorry.
So sorry. I did this. I'm sorry.
Let's go to the next segment. Our next segment is called Steal This Game Mechanic. This is where we talk about a small portable mechanic in one game Q, that can be easily transported into game R or any other game.
Why Q and R?
I don't know. I'm just trying to mix it up.
Right.
I'm trying to have
We
variety.
did A and B.
We did A and B last time.
Already, yeah.
I could do X and Y, but it's so obvious.
You can do 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
But
so
then we're gonna have to start getting into like wingdings and stuff. Like,
Well, but-
take
but-
game peace sign and
when you
move
say
it into
game one
football
and then
field.
game two sounds like the sequel to game one.
I guess that's true.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Game like hurricane symbol and game smiley face. Though.
You could do
That's-
emojis.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Game poop and game
Right.
taco.
Yeah, which one are you gonna call game poop?
Game poop and game taco. Okay, so the taco emoji is a thing now. That made the news the other day. All right, so
All I know is the eggplant looks like a dick, apparently.
oh, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a thing. All right, so Steal This Game Mechanic. We talk about small, tiny, portable mechanics that might work great in other games. It's a fun new feature of the podcast. And Steve, you have an awesome game mechanic for us. What is it?
So this one comes from Primetime Adventures by Matt Wilson or Snyder. I get them confused.
Wilson.
I don't know.
All right.
Snyder is the Dust Devils guy.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
44.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Fun. So anyway, Primetime Adventures it's basically supposed to replicate the experience of watching a TV show, more or less. And so, assuming you're doing a campaign and not just a one-off, like a pilot or whatever, you go into it with sort of character arcs in mind, or maybe not how it will turn out, but which episode will be about which character. And there are mechanics tied to it, like you'll be, when an episode is about your character, you'll be more able to affect the change you want and more able to overcome challenges and obstacles. But basically what you do before you play out, I think it's supposed to be either a 5-session series or a 9-session series. So if we assume it's a 5, then you will all have, if we've got 3 characters, like 3 of us, for example, here in the room, then maybe my character isn't quite the main character or something, but like you'll all have one spotlight episode, which is the mechanic I'm aiming towards here.
Right.
And
Spotlight episodes.
spotlight episodes.
Yeah, Dan and I've never played this, so
Right.
yeah,
So the spotlight episode, each character will have one in the series. And what it means is, like I mentioned before, you'll be a little more mechanically capable. That's what it means, mechanically speaking. But it means the episode will focus on you. It doesn't mean that the other characters won't be there. It's just that they're a contributing part, or because I think you rate a given episode for a given character on a 1, 2, or 3. And I think a 3 means it's your spotlight episode. You'll have 3 opportunities to increase your chances on a conflict. A 2 means you'll have 2 chances. It means you're a side character, but not, you're still important. You're still mostly there, but you're not the main person. And a 1 means you're sort of a side character. You're not present all the time. In Primetime Adventures, I might not recommend the equivalent of the 1, or I mean outside of Primetime Adventures, because Primetime Adventures has mechanics whereby you can still be involved in a given conflict even if your character is not there.
Okay. Yeah.
But it
yeah.
means you lay out a little path line before you start playing for which characters will get the focus on in which sessions, in which episodes. So, the first session might be, we just sort of get to know everybody. There's no focus, right? And the second one might be, Dan, it's our chance to learn more about your character. Like, you're the gateway into the story.
I have more screen time.
Right.
Essentially, yeah.
And you're sort of deciding slightly and in a fairly simple way how things are going to go throughout the course of your 5 or 9 sessions or whatever. And second episode, we might be back to it's just, sort of ensemble. And then third episode, you might want to focus on a second character, and then you'll probably want the last episode to be either somebody who you think might carry over best into the next series or make a good cliffhanger, or will end up just being sort of the main character. That probably works better in a one-shot.
I love this already. And here's why I love it. Because I'm thinking of Monster Hearts. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking of Monster Hearts because something that happens in Monster Hearts, I love to play Monster Hearts over multiple sessions, but something that inevitably happens with Monster Hearts is someone doesn't show for a session, and it kind of fucks things up because you have like you're kind of telling a story like that is kind of like everybody, like everyone's kind of equal.
Yeah. Right.
But I think
you've got things set up where it's like next time I'm totally doing this with this character, right?
Right, yeah.
And then they don't show up.
But if you could like map out beforehand, like, okay, this is the episode where like this is the session where like your character is like in the spotlight, like this is the important one about you. You have a really, I don't know, like I think like as part of like your prep as a GM, it'd be a really great way of like accounting for those problems, right? Like when you have like people missing, especially if you know somebody's not going to be there, right? Because we often know when people aren't going to be there from week to week, right? They tell us. So you could kind of like map it. I like that. I'm into it. I'm not sure how it would work in Monster Hearts exactly, but
I think I think it's not super complicated.
Yeah.
I think if it's about to be your spotlight episode in Monster Hearts and you can't make it, then maybe you skip that one.
Yeah.
Or you do some finagling or something if you think you can swing it with a slight rearrange.
Yeah.
I also just occurred to me this might work well with Apocalypse World has advanced or what do they call them? Advanced moves you can take or advancements that you can take after 5 or 6 advancements.
Most of the games have something like that.
Yeah. But Apocalypse World and I think Monster of the Week.
Monster Hearts has it as well. Like the growing up moves.
Oh yeah, Monster.
I'm referring specifically to the ones that let you as a player take a second PC.
Okay.
Oh,
I see.
That's. So I know which ones you're talking about in Apocalypse World. Yeah.
So you just straight up create another PC and you're theoretically playing both. And I think that it might be a nice way to handle it if you set things up so that going in, okay, one of your PCs is important this session, the other one we probably shouldn't see much of.
Oh yeah.
And vice versa eventually, but you sort of weave them in and out, but they're never both super important. Because I've run sessions that have. It was like 6 players and 8 PCs, and I'm like, okay, that's a little much.
That just seems weird and awkward.
Uh-huh.
Why would you ever want that? I don't understand.
Yeah,
I don't understand the advantage of playing 2 characters. So we're going off topic.
Well, we're a little spoiled because we always have a full table. I could see maybe wanting to do that if you only had like 2 or 3 dependable players, right?
Yeah, I guess
to get like some variety in the characters.
Yeah.
We never have that issue. So, but no, I see what you're saying there.
We sort of did a half-assed version of what I'm suggesting. Is we were just like, okay, which of your characters are you going to involve in this session, and which of your characters are we going to involve?
Yeah. So here's the thing: I don't think you can ever go wrong. Just in general, treating role-playing games like a movie or a TV show, right? Like, treat a one-shot like a movie and treat a multi-episode or a multi-session game like a TV show. Like, if you think about it, I think those are the better analogies, than books and stories, right? I think that there's a tendency to want to like have the analogy be like a book or a story, but I think that's wrong. I think movies and shows are the way to go. And so
because they're designed to tell a story in a similar amount of time.
Right. Yeah. So I'm digging that anything that kind of goes along that thread of thinking is good for me. Yeah.
And Primetime Adventures functions very nicely as a TV show simulator.
Explicitly,
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. No, I like it a lot. That's pretty badass. Yeah. I could totally get behind that. All right, let's go to the next segment. Our topic for today is the 16 hit point dragon. Okay. If you have been involved in Dungeon World for a while, especially if you were playing it early on, like when it first came out, you will know what I'm talking about. What was happening when Dungeon World was taking off is people were buying the Dungeon World book They were getting it because they'd heard like, oh, Dungeon World's this cool new thing, right? They're flipping through it. You go straight to the dragon, obviously, because that's what you do, right? You go straight to the dragon. Obviously. You're looking at the monsters. You're like, okay. Oh, dragon. Let's go to the dragon. You go to the dragon, and the dragon's only got 16 hit points. And then
what kind of a shitty dragon is that?
What kind of fucked up dragon is that?
This is a baby dragon, Jason?
And then you go back over, and you're like, hey, the halfling thief has 16 hit points too. And then you're like, this is dumb. And so you never played Dungeon World, right? So that was the thing that was happening.
And then you probably
right?
post about this on Reddit.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
And you made little memes. There was a little meme going around that was like, it showed Smaug and Bilbo. It was like, both have 16 hit points or whatever, like there was that. So the 16 hit point dragon was a thing a couple years ago, right? It might still be, for those of you who have like.
So 2 years later, we're really nailing this topical point of conversation.
So the reason why I'm making it the topic is because I ran a dragon for the first time in Dungeon World, and then the first time I've ran a dragon in Dungeon World.
Oh, you've done so much Dungeon World.
I know. Yeah, like it was. I wish I could say it was the 250th session was our dragon. I don't know if that was the right number, but
you could still say that.
I could, yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I stopped keeping track ages ago, so it was. For the 250th session of Dungeon World, we ran a dragon.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we ran a dragon for the first time. It's the first time I've ran a dragon in a role-playing game in probably, since I was a kid. So I was kind of like, I'm thinking about dragons, and it was a fun fight. It was really awesome. And so I got thinking about the 16 hit point dragon. Now, there's an article on the internet. You can just Google 16 hit point dragon, and it comes right up. It's the first thing. I don't remember the author, but
I think it was one or the other. It was either Sage of the Torah.
It might have been Sage or
Kobold.
Adam. Yeah, I don't remember who wrote it, but it was a really, really nice like explanation of like the thinking behind the 16 hit point dragon. So you should go read that if you're really interested, because it's gonna explain it much better than I'm about to. But I'm still going to. So I want to use it as to segue into another topic, which is like what is fun in combat, right? So, but just a recap of what the 16 hit point dragon, the idea behind it. Okay, so. Yeah, the dragons in Dungeon World only have 16 hit points. Okay. I ran this, I had a session where they fought this like god, this demon rat god named Drakizik, and he only had like 20 hit points, right? He was a fucking god, right? So, but it's still, it doesn't matter. The 16 hit point dragon, yeah, it only has 16 hit points, and yeah, halfling thieves also have about 16 hit points. But here's the thing. Dungeon World always takes into account like what's happening on screen and like what's appropriate in the fiction, right? Just like any Apocalypse World game. And one thing that like when you just dismiss the 16 hit point dragon, you dismiss like what Dungeon World's whole, raison d'etre is, which is you are supposed to be focused really, really tightly on what's actually happening on screen and what would really happen in the fiction. And so, yeah, the dragon only has 16 hit points, but how are you going to get past like its gigantic cone of flame,
Yeah.
Like how are you going to get past all, you've got to dodge its teeth and its buffeting wings and its
the
claws
city is
and
set
its tails,
on fire
right?
or whatever.
Yeah, it sets a city on fire. So now you've got to deal with like all these like, crumbling buildings and burning building hazards. Like, you got to deal with all that. You got to deal with the people who are dying. Once you finally do get close to the dragon, if you can get close to the dragon, how in the hell are you supposed to hit it? Because it's got inch thick, scales. And so your sword's not going to be able to pierce that. That doesn't make any sense, right? So the 16 hit point dragon idea is, yeah, it just has 16 hit points, but it's kind of an acknowledgement. Dungeon World kind of acknowledges like it sort of like, implicitly acknowledges like what's actually fun about fighting a dragon, right? Like,
yeah.
The dragon is not just another monster, that has in this, like in D&D has like 400 hit points and you're just going to like trade blows, like you're just trading blows with it for like 4 hours until it dies, right? No. Dungeon World acknowledges that like a dragon encounter should be a set piece, essentially, right? It should be a big set piece. It should be a series of linked tasks that are incredibly dangerous, right? That's what a dragon in Dungeon World is. And so I wanted to segue just kind of, I don't even know if there's a topic here for us to talk about. I hope there is, but it's on my mind.
Don't oversell it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's on my mind lately, this idea of the 16 hit point dragon, just because we ran a dragon. And, for anybody who is like, because I'm sure there are some listeners who have kind of written off Dungeon World because they, I've had so many people tell me like, oh, I don't want to do Dungeon World because I don't like how they quantify things, or that doesn't make any sense.
Really?
Oh, fuck yeah, all the time. And so hopefully this like, makes sense to those people now if they're listening, right? Like this is what, I don't know. So what do you guys think? So combat,
what the listeners didn't see, because this is not a visual medium, is me remembering how many dragons I fought in 4th Ed D&D and rolling my eyes. So fighting a dragon in 4th Ed D&D is just like 2 hours of hit point attrition. And when I say
it's attrition, pure and simple.
It's like it's playing a spreadsheet.
Right. Yeah. Punctuated by occasionally the dragon healing half of its 500 hit points. Oh, Christ.
Right, yeah.
And just, it's in the title of the game, Dungeons and Dragons. And whenever I played in a brief campaign where there were a bunch of, that was sort of the thing. There were dragons invading a place we were trying to kill them. And it's just, every time it would happen, I'd be like, well, okay, I enjoy the, board gamey mechanics of 4th Ed D&D combat. I will not care about what's about to happen. It will not be terrifying, but there's a pillar I can hide behind, and then maybe I can come back around it and throw something at the dragon. That's
right,
that's it. Oh, and if I do hit, then it'll take off maybe upwards of 20 of its 379 remaining hit points.
Right. Yeah.
It's just it's not a compelling thing fictionally at all, and it could be. You could jazz it up as a DM. But
there's too much to manage and track.
Yeah, there really
right?
is.
How can you? I mean,
and when Dungeon World replaces, I don't know if replaces is the right word, but what Dungeon World has is, and what the Apocalypse World games have, are fiction that can be very easily and logically turned into interesting rules via moves. And so when you're fighting your 16 hit point dragon, you are. You're not quite as the person running that dragon, relying on
stat blocks with lists of spells and shit, and all the things it can do.
It's not all numbers. Yeah. It's things that you can use to instill terror in your players. Basically.
You're relying on you're kind of, really in a lot of ways, this is all of Dungeon World to some degree. You're relying on like your knowledge of D&D and what dragons can do, right? In D&D, except you're not needing to refer to all of, the specific granular mechanical details of what it can do. You're just doing moves, and GM moves are just like, oh, well, you know what? The dragon breathes a cone of fire and hits all of you because you're all just standing there.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the, to some degree, like I've always said that like Dungeon World couldn't be the first game. Right.
Right.
Like Dungeon World couldn't have been the first game.
Apocalypse World was the first game, right?
I mean, Dungeon World can't exist in a world where there wasn't D&D because Dungeon World requires that you have that baked in knowledge of like how things operate in a D&D style fantasy world, right?
If nothing else, a ton of video games or whatever that have.
Yeah, you gotta have something, right? You
gotta
have something. You gotta have something, yeah. I mean, I think, Apocalypse World, Dungeon World, they all handle combat in a way that is, that gets to like the important part of the combat, which is like the tension of like, how's this gonna go? I'm thinking back on, well, it's Dungeon World again, but like it's a kind of on the other end of the spectrum. I'm thinking back, remember when we fought that hag? Do you remember that? Vaguely, Dan? I don't know if you do. This is ages ago.
Nope.
But there was this hag. She was really powerful. And, but she was just a hag and just it was 1 versus 5, her versus the whole party. The combat was over in like 2 minutes. Okay. It was over in like 2 minutes flat. But that 2 minutes was so pregnant with danger, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, I don't even know if the players realized it at the time, but it was incredibly pregnant with danger, and it was one bad die roll away from like being disastrous, right? Like that's the fun part, right? Like that, it's that tension, it's that, that you can kind of get all of that in such a short period of time. And again, looks like it would look like on a movie or a TV show, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the good part. And so, the 16 hit point dragon, to me is like a sort of a manifesto of like what is actually fun in a combat.
Yeah. Well, I think we could flip it around and say like what's not fun is if nothing changes round to round other than numbers on a page, that's not fun. And I think in a lot of cases, like if you're fighting a dragon in D&D, you could cut out the entire middle section of the fight. Your dudes haven't moved. The dragon hasn't moved. All that's happened is your hit points are different.
Yep.
But that's not the case in something like Dungeon World. Like you couldn't cut from the intro scene of like, we walk into the room and here's the dragon straight to killing the dragon. That wouldn't make any sense because in the fiction, things have moved so far from that.
Yeah.
Because like you're passing your rolls, you're failing your rolls, things are changing in the fiction in response to that. It's not like, I'm still here on the same square, and I'm still hacking at this dragon.
I'm still shooting lightning bolts.
Later.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
This isn't every traditional game, and, it can vary. But I've had experiences in traditional games where the ones that where their mechanics sort of focus on combat. There's not too much social or story stuff, right? And so it'll kind of feel like a movie, and it's flowing along, and it's like, yeah, this is really interesting. And then you get to combat, and it's like that movie just hit super slow mo, and it stays there for 2 hours.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is not fun for somebody like me, at least. And I love that the Apocalypse World and Kin condense what could take an hour and a half, 2 hours in Dungeons and Dragons to condense that down to 3 or 5 rolls or something, and they take just a few minutes.
Right.
And there's still a lot of danger and a lot of interesting things going on, because
a lot of danger.
The moves are constructed in such a fiction-centric way, in such an interesting way, that there's a lot of potential for interesting consequences to come out of that. I love that sort of thing.
And I think it's gonna be different, like, if you fight a dragon in a cavern or something, it's going to be different than if you fight him in an open field or something like that in Dungeon World, to an extent that it's not so much in D&D, where
that's true.
Like every dragon fight could essentially go the same way for the most part. Like maybe you'll have something different, like on your little map.
I'm hiding behind a pillar in the cavern or a tree in the field. And that's
Exactly.
But like,
rock.
But the way you approach fighting the dragon is going to be like, you're going to use the same skills and the same spells, and you're going to make the same rolls and all that. Whereas like in something where you have to deal with like, well, how do I even get close to this dragon? Like it's going to be way different in a cavern than it is in a field. And so I think that makes it a lot more interesting too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It becomes a big set piece, right? It goes back to the example in the actual 16 hit point dragon article is the dragon has torched a village, and you're trying to like fight this dragon in this village, but now there are like burning people and burning buildings that you have to cope with, right? Suddenly your environment is a lot more hostile,
right?
Than it was before the dragon arrived, and so you have to cope with that.
And it's not just set dressing. Like if that happened in D&D, there's a burning dude running by you. There's probably not going to be any rules in it.
Everyone's like, ha ha ha. Okay, I'm going to cast my fireball now.
Right? Yeah,
what do I need to roll?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've covered it. I mean, that's, it's, the 16 hit point dragon. Go read that article, folks. It's
really good.
It's good. It's a real good one. By the time I found that article, I had already kind of like understood, like, the whole Apocalypse World sort of ethos or whatever, but it really helped put it really, really like hammered it home for me. I was like, you know what? After I read it, I was like, that's what I want in role playing games. Like, that is what I want. And so, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's what I want. Maybe not with all the dragons
less
and
dragons,
elves.
Less dragons and elves, but it's all right.
But in principle, yes.
What if the dragon's torching a bunch of elves?
That's
tempting,
pretty good.
huh?
Yeah,
it's tempting.
Maybe if it's just a cyber dragon, then I'm all right.
Cyber dragon.
So you want to play Shadowrun?
Is he also the CEO of a corporation of Antagodyne?
Obviously, the CEO of Antagodyne is an ancient dragon. Come on.
Yes. All right, next segment. Well, we don't really have a community feedback segment this week as much as we have just community information. Maybe this is where I should have saved my advertisement for my stuff I'm getting rid of. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, but you cleverly brought it up again.
I know. I'm that good. I want to talk about Gauntlet Hangouts. That's a brand new thing. We have a brand new Google Plus community called Gauntlet Hangouts. It's very nascent right now, but I think we have some things. I think things are going to happen there. We have 2 events presently listed. The first is Saturday morning cartoons. That's the one that I'm running on Saturday mornings. It's Dungeon World. I think I said 6 sessions. It might only end up being like 4 or 5, or maybe 3, like interspersed with something and then 3 more. So that's the thing that's happening. And then another listener Ryan is going to be running, Swords Without Master. He's running Swords Without Master on a Wednesday in July. These all start in mid-July, and presumably we'll be doing them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Saturday morning cartoons I intend to do weekly, at least initially, to get it going. So if you are interested in that, you should go to Google Plus and you should type in Gauntlet but add Hangouts to it, and hopefully you'll see our Gauntlet Hangouts thing.
It's its own separate community, right?
It's its own separate community. The logo looks different. Instead of the Gauntlet holding a big red D20, it's holding a webcam, which is kind of
good.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Listener Daniel, or listener Fowler, I just said his whole name by doing that.
You did.
Oh, well, fuck. I don't, he doesn't care. Listener Daniel.
I feel like it really doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. Yeah. Well, for our thousands of listeners, right? Yeah. So listener Daniel, he drew that for us. It was pretty cool. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. If you're interested, you should go on there. We've had several people who are interested in wanting to run games. I'm a little hesitant about putting just a bunch of games on the calendar, though, until I know that we're going to have people actually attending them.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep it real. I'm trying to be real reserved about it initially. So, and I've also for my game, I have kind of told Houston Gauntlet to keep their hands off for a little while so that people who are not in Houston, who don't have a chance to game with us face to face, can have a chance to maybe do that if they want to. But if we don't have enough takers, then I'll take our filthy Houston players back, I guess, for those games. So that's it for the podcast. We have our regular community, which you should join as well, which is also on Google+. It's called The Gauntlet. If you type the words The Gauntlet into the field whereby you can search for things on Google+, the Hangouts thing will come up probably as well, but also our main community will come up as well. It's got a big red die in the Gauntlet, and you just click on that thing and you can join. It's great.
Nice and concise there, Jason.
I'm getting better and better at delivering this part of the...
Pretty soon, this is going to be the whole podcast.
This is going to be the whole fucking podcast.
How to find
I know.
Google Plus community.
Well, you guys make fun of me when I say pop right up, so I can't do that anymore. All right, so...
No, I like that. That was like a thing.
Okay, all right. Okay, so anyway, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners. Well, so Burning Wheel is like 18 different awards, so everyone it's like everyone gets a trophy.
It's a participation
trophy.
Yeah,
everyone gets a trophy. Like,
right.
I think you were MVP.
You were the workhorse.
You were the workhorse.
Yeah.
Like there's like 100 of them. So like, you're gonna get something.
But even that, I felt like in Mouse Guard, it's like I think it's a little bit more minimal than maybe Burning Wheel. But even that, I was like, really?
Yeah.
You guys really think that he was the workhorse? I was working my ass off over here. Like,
my guy's hungry and tired.